Hi everyone, this is Jim. Welcome to this Blitz chess postmortem. This is a postmortem of my Blitz game number 274. I was white here and kicked off with c4, and my opponent played b6. The English defense to the English opening. So I played knight f3 here. I guess d4 is a move, and knight c3. But I wanted to get the knight in the way, so I have the idea of fianchettoing this bishop. And now he can stop me from the immediate fianchetto with playing bishop b7, sort of the most logical continuation. The other idea maybe is knight f6 here, or c5. These are other ideas from the opening book. But in general, with the English defense, white is looking to put pressure on this diagonal. And sometimes you want to get in the move, if you can, get in the move f5 before you play knight f6. So I'm not sure. Knight f6 is really in the spirit of the opening. But in any case, my opponent played a different move. He played bishop a6. Now bishop a6 is a move in the Queen's Indian defense when it hits this pawn, but usually that happens after d4 has already been played. So, so a piece has to be employed, or maybe maybe you can play b3 to defend the c-pawn, but it forces some kind of pawn structure change. Here, just the natural d3 seems to be fine. Knight f6 and g3. And now I'm threatening to put my bishop here with threats along the open diagonal against his rook there, so he needs to guard against that, and he plays bishop b7. So in a sense, I've won a tempo because the bishop took two moves to get to the square b7 where it could have gone in one move. But with that tempo, I played the move d3, not the most aggressive or exciting move. So it's not all that important that black has lost a tempo. Also because it's a closed position. Tempos don't matter so much in a closed position like this. So black is doing fine here. He plays d6. I got knight c3. I mean, there is an edge for white. And I guess if you play against the English in a more symmetrical or directly with e4 going into reverse Sicilian, you get a position the engine evaluates is closer to even than this. So I've got a bigger than normal edge out of the opening in the English. You don't really, with the English, you're not usually looking for a big opening edge. You're usually playing for longer term, for playing for a long game and looking for benefits down the road. So anyway, I continue. No, my opponent continues with e5, and now we do have a reverse Sicilian setup, but a closed Sicilian where we got these two rows of pawns that are two diagonals of pawns that are not in contact with each other. I just castle. I'm okay with this slow development, and then I decide to play b4. It looks like there's no harm in this move. Maybe it grabs a little space on the queen side, and I may push on with c5 at the right moment just to disorder my opponent's pawns. He castles. And could I play c5 here? I mean, as a pawn sack, pawn takes, pawn takes, pawn takes. Maybe. Here, let's take a look and evaluate it. I'm just curious. Yeah, the engine is not impressed. And bishop takes. Okay, yeah, with this bishop there, I just lose a pawn, and I haven't inflicted enough damage to make that pawn sack worthwhile. Okay, so I continue with bishop b2, and he plays knight bd7, further clamping down on this c5 square, so that pushes pretty much off the agenda now. And in fact, he plays c5, so that pretty much ends it. So now, well, I'm still in this range of slightly better here through all these moves, but I play a couple of moves here that the engine does not approve of, and pretty soon we get to a position where black is equal or better. So he takes with the knight. I just didn't want to leave this b-pawn hanging to have to worry about the rest of the game. So far so good. And then knight d5. So it's a combination of taking and knight d5 that the engine does not approve of. So it gets back to, it's not like for a second it thinks black is better, but really it's about even. Knight takes d5. And then the better way to take back is with the e-pawn. Yeah, I didn't want to do that, but I guess maybe I have ideas. If I take with the e-pawn, maybe I can use the square on e4 later, and it does give a little bit more scope to the bishop. Well, the bishop is still going to be blocked, but I wanted to take with the c-pawn and get the open c-file. So, and I wasn't sure. There is counterplay for black with the idea of the push. If I take with the e-pawn, then he always has the idea of pushing his e-pawn forward to disrupt and undermine my pawns. But when I take this way, he has other ideas. And now actually black has the edge. So he puts his bishop back on a6, and this is why, this is the reason for the edge. He's suddenly got an attack, and it forces me into this awkward defensive move. So definitely that sequence where I took and played knight d5 and took with the c-pawn, I was giving the advantage to black in that sequence there. So not a good plan, but not a fatal plan either. So the game goes on. I do get the rook on the c file. Oh, well, he gets a rook on the c file first, but I get a rook on the c file too. And then he plays knight to d7, and I play f4. This was my idea to try and loosen up the center here and give some more scope to the bishop. If I can undermine this e-pawn or get it out of the way, I can push my e-pawn forward. So he decided to exchange first and then take on f4. All this is approved by the chess engine. What's funny is that very shortly the game kind of falls apart for black. There's a certain gathering of momentum here. So I wanted to play rook takes f4, but then I realized in time, fortunately, that he has bishop to g5. So rook takes is no good. I didn't really consider queen takes, which is an option here, and I went ahead and played g takes since my rook didn't work. I took with the pawn. And okay, so he plays knight c5 here. So he had just moved the knight out of the way to allow the exchange of rooks, and now he brings it back to continue with this pressure against the d6 pawn. My rook here is, well, the pawn is pinned. I was thinking, I might just want to play the move d4 to just continue to build up in the center, but my pawn is pinned there. So I need to defend the pawn. I play queen e3, and he goes knight a4, now going after my bishop. And I don't want to give up that bishop, but knight a4, if you'll see, is actually a mistake. I don't know why this keeps jumping. So he plays knight a4. And now I have a tactic here, which I guess the engine is giving away, but I missed during the game. But bishop takes g7 there. So if you want to take a look and see why that's a good tactic. Yeah, the idea is, well, if king takes, then queen here, check, is going to fork the knight and the king. So it gets the piece back, and it wins a pawn over here on the king side. So that's worth doing. And of course, if he doesn't take back, then he just has to move his rook away, and he's lost a pawn for nothing. So at least he might as well pick up the bishop. Okay, but I didn't see that. And I played bishop d4, just getting out of the glare of that knight. And also, I thought the bishop here was kind of restricting the mobility of black's knight, although he can always come back to this square. But it keeps him from hopping into these squares and causing trouble. But something similar happens in a bit. So he plays queen to c7, which I guess supports, well, yeah, provides some support along the c file. And I go over here to g3. Once again, bishop g7 could have been played there, but I was thinking of exploiting this weakness in another way. And I noticed here that the bishop to f6 was not playable because the bishop could just be taken. So really there's limited options here. Yeah, f6 really is the only move to block the threat on g7. He doesn't really want to play g6. That's a pretty weakening move here. And bishop f6, I can just take it. So he plays move f6, where it's supported by the rook and the bishop. And now I push forward in the center with e5. And what's funny is that this move actually eventually wins the game for me, but the engine is still not impressed. To start with, he can hop in with the knight to c3. So the queen on c7 is supporting this knight move. So my bishop was no longer effective in keeping that knight corralled. And I could exchange that off, but then I lose what I was trying to gain here in the center. I need the bishop to support my central push. So the engine is saying bishop to f3 could be played. Ah, that's an interesting idea. Yeah, this bishop to f3 would guard the Let's get rid of these lines. Would guard the critical e2 square, because what black is threatening here is knight to e2, forking the king and the queen, and this square is completely unguarded. So bishop f3 or rook f2 are both moves, and I played rook f2 here to guard that square. So at least I was alert enough to see the threats coming. And now d takes c5, d takes e5. Cancel that. D takes, right. And I play back f takes e5. Look at the evaluation. The engine still thinks that black is better here. And I thought I was on the verge of winning with this breakthrough. And of course the game ends in a couple of moves. But it's right here. There's a defensive move that I completely missed. And so in the absence of this defensive move, then I am winning. But he could play bishop c5. Pretty strong diagonal for the bishop. So my king is kind of unfortunately placed here. The king and the rook make a nice pin. So what can I do about this bishop c5? I probably need to take the bishop. That's probably what I would play. Queen takes, keeping the pin on the rook. And now, I just have these weak pawns in the center, and without the dark squared bishop, my attack is kind of fading. Let's count the pawns. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, 5 pawns to 5, but black's pawns are much neater and better organized here. So king h1 to unpin, and knight takes d5. And then I can take on, it says bishop to e4. Okay, so I can continue to attack a pawn down. And it looks like I have compensation here, but that would have been the best defense for black. Right here he chose the second best move, f takes e5, and this is losing because of bishop takes e5 with the double threat of taking the queen and mating on g7. And it's really hard to meet this threat. The one kind of cute line I saw during the game was if he tries to play this move, bishop d6, both defending the queen and defending the pawn over here with his queen, I could just take that for one thing, but also there's this tactic where I can take here. Oh, he takes back, and then I take the queen. The tactic I was thinking of was king takes, which is even worse, because bishop takes comes with a fork on the king and the queen. Okay, but simplest here. Go back. Simplest here would just be after bishop d6. Simplest here would be just to take the bishop. And he really has no good answer for that. He can take here. And yeah, he can't even take the bishop. He needs to move the queen out of the way. Yeah, queen to f7 check. I thought he could move that away with tempo, but I'm a pawn up. Oops, that would have been a mistake. What's that? King to g1 is a mistake because of knight e2 check. This thing again. Yeah, hopefully I would have been more alert during the game. So I have to play queen f3 here to block the check. Okay, and I am just a piece up and winning. So even when you're winning, you can't be too casual about your moves. I guess that's a lesson there. But if we back up to the last position in the game, bishop to e6 was not played. The last move was this bishop takes e5. After a while, he ran out of time in this position, but the move he put on the board just as his clock expired was queen takes bishop, which is not working at all. But once again, this bishop c5 move is pretty strong here. Just giving up the queen, and then he can take here. It's a fork against my king and queen, but knight e2 check, taking advantage of the pin. So that's why it was worthwhile thinking. This gets him quite a bit of play. King f1. King h1 doesn't work. I have to go king f1. And knight takes g3, picking up the queen. Bishop takes, coming back. And where do we stand? Bishop takes f2, bishop takes f2. We have a position where I have two pieces for a rook, and the pawns are even, but my pawns are messed up. And the engine thinks that I have a good position here with the bishop pair. So a point up, and maybe a winning endgame. but certainly not the disaster I'd imagined when we were in this position right here. Bishop takes e5. Yeah, this is where my opponent ran out of time while he was looking for that move. So pretty interesting. Pinning bishop c5, pinning the rook, threatening knight e2, forking my king and queen. And so he doesn't just lose his queen in this position with the best play, but still I end up with a pretty good endgame advantage. So anyway, that's how the game ended, though, was right here when he ran out of time. Hope you guys enjoyed that. Leave any comments you have in the section below, and I will see you again soon. Bye.